This is a time to uprise. Welcome to today's show. Obviously, I've been talking about the brain chip for quite some time. I've been talking about all of this gene editing that's going on and that they're obsessed with having occur to society, which, of course, we've heard all the rich and the elites talk about how it's going to change you, right? And now, conveniently, we've seen Elon Musk become a hero for Christians and conservatives out there because they just are looking for a hero, and really they should just be looking to Christ, who is the only hero that's ever existed. We have an article from Insider, How Brain Chips Can Change You. Studies show that Elon Musk's new tech can bend your mind in strange and troubling ways. Oh, that sounds like fun. Sign me up. You mean a lobotomy? Is that what you're saying? You mean something in my brain that's going to control me, from the outside? Is that what everybody wants and needs? Apparently. And I'll show you a video in a few minutes of just how you should look at all of this stuff, because we all look at it and we're like, nobody's going to do this. Nobody's going to want it. And I just saw a video on YouTube, and the guy is like, how exciting is this? This is great. People in the comment section, I can't wait. And right, remember, that's where the superhero, superhuman programming comes in with all of these nerd movies that have just, it used to be like 1989's Batman was out. Like, all right, there's Batman. I mean, every month we have movies. I've never seen such a dork fest. Ant-Man. Oh, what? Galaxies of the Nerds. Oh, wow. Who's ever heard of this crap? And they just push it and push it and push it. It's programming so that people want to be like superheroes, because that's how they're going to market these things. And that's exactly what you see in the comment sections of the video I'll show you in a few minutes, where people are just drooling over this when all of us are going, oh, this is insane. Nobody would do this. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Well, you saw what the outbreak everyone just did to themselves. They'll be doing this too. So Elon Musk wants to put a computer chip in your brain, as we all know. Well, maybe not in your brain, but in the brain of some human somewhere. Musk's neurotech startup Neuralink has been working toward implanting a skull-embedded brain chip in a human since it was founded in 2016. After years of testing on animal subjects, Musk announced in December that the company planned to initiate human trials within 6 months. Neuralink has spent over half a decade figuring out how to translate brain signals into digital outputs. Imagine being able to move a cursor, send a text message, or type in a word processor with just a thought. Yeah, no thank you. Has anyone ever imagined that? Why would you imagine that? How lazy can you be? Oh, my brain's telling me to turn the light switch on. Oh, the lights went on. Oh, is it that hard to get up and hit the switch? Oh, apparently it is for people. But they just see that. They don't see past it. They don't go, oh, wow, if it's reading my thoughts and I'm saying turn on the lights and the lights are going on, what else is it reading that I'm thinking? Right? And people are like, well, I'm not ashamed of it. Oh, yeah? Any bad thought that pops into your head, like going and visiting Klaus Schwab or something like that, the police will be at your door in 5 milliseconds. Huh? Any thought, and it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. So this goes on to say, imagine being able to move the cursor, send a text, blah, 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 with the initial focus on medical use cases such as helping paralyzed people communicate. Musk has aspired to take Neuralink's chips mainstream too, as he said, put a Fitbit in your skull. That's what they're advertising it as. I've used that before, and I've also mentioned, because Fitbit, if you're not understanding what they mean, Fitbit and all of this technology, this wearable technology, is just a way to desensitize you to get it in your body. Think about how pointless the Apple Watches are, and Fitbit, right? I know some of you like it, probably have it, and I'm not saying you're a bad person if you have this stuff. I'm telling you the purpose of it, right? You're like, oh, it's just to track my calories. That way I can lose weight. Okay, well, in reality, you can really just track your calories. But all right, you want to track your everyday calories, go ahead. But they're desensitizing the majority of society into learning all of these things about what's happening inside of their body by wearing it on them. Sooner or later, just like a big cell phone that Zach Morris used to use on Saved by the Bell turned into a smaller phone, a sleeker phone. Now we have the eye lenses, the phone in your eyes, Bluetooth in your ears. It all keeps shrinking, so eventually it could be inside of you. And that's where Neuralink comes in. And that's where everyone's hero, Elon Musk, comes in. The other side of it is how they market this with helping paralyzed people communicate. This is so that they can use this as a tool. So that when people like me come out and we say all this stuff about how bad it is, they'll say, well, that's what their opinion is. But think about the lives we could help. And all the suckers out there, all of these weak people who think that all these rich people actually care about us and want to help us. So they've been brainwashed into being, philanthropists, which again, another thing I've warned about from day one. People are like, you're crazy. Philanthropy, it's nice to be a philanthropist. It's nice to give money to people. All part of just brainwashing society into this stuff. Give. Even though you should give to people, you should help people, okay? They're using it as a weapon against us. So this is a perfect example. Paralyzed people. Well, this like technology should be legal, they'll say, because it'll help a paralyzed person be able to read. And you're selfish if you don't agree with that. When all of us should say no technology like this should exist. And if, maybe for the bare minimum, if you want to say that somebody's paralyzed who gives consent, wants to use this type of stuff, all right. But this is the type of technology that's going to be normalized on people that don't even know what it's really being used for. The same people that put their dinners on social media. And you're saying, what does that mean? Well, people who are just giving all their information of their day-to-day life away to, quantum computers who are sucking up your info. And they're like, who cares if they know what I ate for dinner? Who cares if they know I took a dump 5 minutes ago? Who cares if they saw me picking my nose? Oh yeah, you will care eventually when you realize that they are. You're just telling yourself that they're not. They're sucking up your data. In reality, they've worked you into a frenzy, into sharing your life with the world. Nobody asked for it. Nobody really wants it. These people don't realize it. Like I've said before, you see these people on Twitter, they tweet out things. Like a celebrity does, they tweet out. I mean, it's one of the things I like to look at because I laugh so hard. Like watching human behavior. Sometimes I go on Twitter just to see like that stuff. And like a celebrity will die, like say Priscilla Presley, right? People tweeting out about it like they knew her. They never knew her. And they give a statement like, my heart and prayers go out to Priscilla Presley's family, or not Priscilla Presley, the daughter, whatever her name was. You get the point, right? So-and-so died. Oh, my thoughts and prayers. They give a PR statement. And then you see it's like 0 view comments, 0 hearts. Who are they talking to? Oh, they're talking to the algorithm. They're talking to AI. Because AI is monitoring your thoughts because you're giving them your thoughts. No one's asking for it. And you sound like a bigger robot than AI by tweeting that. That's the world that we're living in. So this goes on to talk about how it's going to change you, transform you. Remember, these are all trigger terms that they use. The transformation, the transformation, the transformation. They say from science fiction to billion-dollar industry, the article goes on to brag about. But they talk about how eventually it's going to change your mind. There have been no confirmed cases of terminal man-style violent rampages caused by BCIs, but compelling evidence suggests the devices can cause cognitive changes beyond the scope of their intended applications. Some of the changes have been positive, after all. BCIs are intended to change certain things about their users. That is a brain-computer interface, by the way. Sorry, I was saying it as if, I didn't really know what it was either, to be honest with you, but brain-computer interface. They're intended to change certain things about their users. Wexler, the University of Pennsylvania philosophy professor, interviewed people with Parkinson's who were undergoing deep brain stimulation, a surgical treatment that involves implanting thin metal wires that send electrical pulses to the brain to help abate motor symptoms, and found that many had lost their sense of self before undergoing treatment. Many felt that the disease had robbed them in some ways of who they were. It really impacts your identity, your sense of self. If you can't do the things you think of yourself of being able to do, in these instances, BCIs helped the people feel like they were returning to themselves by helping treat the underlying disease. And again, that's how sick they are. They're going to use poor victims of these things as their test dummies, as they always do, as their science experiment. And then they're going to prey off of that to get these types of things passed, right? To say it's normal. We should have these on every shelf in the store, right? And then we should have people who don't have Alzheimer's use it. They'll desensitize you with that, right? So you're used to the technology, you hear about the technology, oh, okay, it doesn't scare you anymore. Then they'll start saying, well, this technology, did you know that you could, you'll have more energy? You will sleep less and be up longer? You'll have a better sex drive? You'll be able to lose weight faster? They'll use all those types of things. And once everyone's desensitized to it, then people will be willing to try it. They'll be like, I didn't hear any stories on the news about people combusting from the chip. Oh, don't worry about the chip changing you. Well, of course the chip is going to change you. Now, I'm going to play the clip I was talking about. You'll get a laugh out of it because if you're listening to this and you listen to my channel, you're like, nobody's going to do this. Who is dumb enough to do this? I mean, other than these people who are really, really sick and are like desperate to try, I understand. I'm not saying anything bad about those people. But we're talking about our entire society that's eventually going to have this implanted in them. And Klaus Schwab has said it, right? It's going to be implanted in you and it's going to change you, just like, this is saying. But take a look at this positive spin, how these absolute imbeciles think that this is going to be good for society and it's exciting. It's insanity is really what it is.
What if technology could help blind people see again? What if we could send signals to specific parts of the brain and spinal cord to help paralyzed people move their limbs with enough strength to walk, run, and even lift weights? How cool would it be to operate your smartphone simply by blinking your eyes? In this video, we will look at the exciting implantable chip being developed by Elon Musk's Neuralink and the crazy ways it can change your life. If you've ever fantasized about being a cyborg, this video will show you how that can be possible. With the progression of brain-machine technology, humans can better interact with technology around them, effectively becoming cyborgs. It sounds straight out of fiction, but it's real. In fact, with the vision of enabling people with paralysis to directly use their neural activity to operate computers and mobile devices with speed and ease, Neuralink plans to start testing their brain-machine interface technology on humans in 2023. How cool is that? A brain-machine interface, or BMI, refers to any device that enables us to control a machine using our brain. BMI is not a new concept. The National Science Foundation awarded a grant to University of California researcher Jacques Vidal in the 1970s to study BMIs. Vidal published a paper in 1973, which was the first appearance of BMIs in science literature. But what is the concept behind BMIs? You see, we have an abundance of neurons throughout our brains. These neurons are individual nerve cells joined to one another by dendrites and axons. Our neurons are actively engaged whenever we think, act, feel, or recall something. Scientists have several ways to measure the activity of neurons in the brain, but the most common of these methods are electroencephalograph, or EEG. The EEG is a group of electrodes attached to the scalp to read brain signals. However, because the skull restricts the electrical signals, a sizable portion of the signal coming out of our brain gets distorted. The essential working principle is the same regardless of where the electrodes are placed. They detect minute variations in voltage between neurons, and then the signal is amplified and filtered. Magnetic resonance image, or MRI. This is a large, intricate machine. Although MRI produces high-resolution images, we are unable to use them in permanent or semi-permanent ways. It was used by researchers to establish standards for a particular brain activity or to illustrate the location in the brain where electrodes should be inserted to test a particular function. There are many companies actively researching BMI technology, but perhaps the most notable of them is Neuralink. Neuralink Corporation was founded in 2016 by Elon Musk and a team of 7 scientists, including Max Hodak. Its present CEO is Jared Birchall. The earliest employees were professionals in fields including neuroscience, biochemistry, and robotics. In April 2017, Neuralink declared that its short-term goal was to create devices to treat severe brain disorders with the long-term objective of human improvement, sometimes known as transhumanism. Musk claimed that the science fiction concept of neural lace in the fictional world of Iain M. Banks' The Culture was a part of what sparked his interest in the subject. He also stated that the long-term goal was to create a symbiosis with artificial intelligence. The company has been developing a chip, N1, that would be implanted in the brain of humans to enable us to control technology with our minds. There have been multiple versions of the chip throughout its development stage. A previous version was a bean-shaped device that would sit behind the ear. However, the scientists were not pleased with the design. According to Musk, it was complex and you still wouldn't look totally normal, you would have a thing behind your ear. So we've simplified this to something that is about the size of a large coin, and it goes in your skull. This new version would sit on a coin-sized portion of the skull, making it physically unnoticeable. It can also be charged wirelessly, which is important because no one wants to sit for hours with a cable attached to the back of their head. Musk described the new version as kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. This prototype is called version 0.9. It is implanted into the brain with 1,024 tiny thread-like electrodes linked to it. The chip could make it possible for people with neurological disorders to operate electronic devices like computers or phones with their thoughts. In addition, Musk claims that it can treat neurological conditions like memory loss, hearing loss, blindness, paralysis, depression, and brain injury. The brain is a sensitive organ, and neurosurgeons must train for years to be able to safely perform surgeries on it. Neuralink wanted to greatly minimize the possibility of error in implementing the chip, so instead of human surgeons, they developed a surgical robot called R1. The R1 robot has been programmed to safely implant the chip into the brain. Both the R1 robot and the N1 chip were designed by US design studio Woke Studios. Neuralink presented the R1 together with the chip at their show and tell event on November 30th, 2022. Speaking on the R1, Musk said, "We ultimately want this robot to do essentially the entire surgery, so everything from incision, removing the skull, inserting electrodes, placing the device and then closing things up. We want to have a fully automated system. Without general anesthesia, the robot could attach to the link in under an hour. The patient could leave the hospital on the same day. While human tests wouldn't start until later this year, Neuralink has been testing their chip on animals. In the show and tell event, Musk presented a group of pigs to the viewers. Every time an animal touched something with its snout, the implant transmitted live impulses from the animal's brain. One of the pigs received an implant 2 months prior, and another pig received 2 Neuralink implants, proving that you can have more than one chip in your head at once. A third pig was implant-free, but you couldn't tell the pigs apart just by looking. To demonstrate that the process is reversible without having any negative effects, Musk also displayed a pig that had a chip placed into its brain in the past, but Neuralink subsequently had it removed. Companies plan to use BMI to achieve great feats in the future. Some of these include helping people with disorders of consciousness, such as people in a coma or a vegetative state, helping neurosurgeons identify functional parts of their patients' brains when performing surgeries, and helping people who have lost the ability to move certain parts of their body recover their motor skills. Neuralink is no different from the other big dreamers in the largely uncharted territory of BMIs. They have already applied for permission from the Food and Drug Administration to start conducting human clinical studies for their implant. These trials could start sometime in 2023. According to Musk, one of the first practical uses for Neuralink's device might be to help blind individuals regain their vision or paralyzed people regain their ability to move. He further claimed that the early applications of this technology would enable a person who is paralyzed to communicate with a computer by using brain impulses to control the mouse and type. Similar to its past show and tell presentations, last year's event was primarily intended to be a recruitment drive. Musk stated that he is now looking for a variety of positions as it moves from concept to product. To attract new members of staff, Musk claimed that Neuralink doesn't require knowledge of biology or how the brain functions because many of the same abilities that are required to make a smartwatch or modern phone operate are really required to make Neuralink work. With the great promises of Neuralink and other BMI research companies, it is no surprise that some naysayers are speaking against the concept and the negative effects it can have on humans. These are not just negative propaganda, but they could be genuine concerns for when BMI tech like Neuralink's N1 chip hits the market. Some of the issues being considered are: experts praise the chip's wireless design as being beneficial for animal testing. However, as soon as the testing involved monkeys, complaints of animal mistreatment started to surface. According to the American Animal Rights Organization Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM, only 7 of the 23 monkeys owned by Neuralink have made it through the testing procedure. As of February 2022, PCRM officially complained about Neuralink to the U.S. Department of Agriculture for mistreating animals and conducting intrusive testing. However, Neuralink has denied these accusations and maintains that it treats the animals it works with humanely. Neuralink promises that its chip can trigger activity in parts of the brain, such as the parts responsible for sight and movement of the body. This could be effective for people for persons recuperating from mental health disorders without the need for counseling or medication. But the chip could also be capable of triggering activity in the part of the brain responsible for violence and aggression. This means people could start fights in a situation that normally wouldn't trigger any form of violence. Imagine being able to master certain skills in football by stimulating parts of the brain. How about using the chip to study for an exam and remembering more than you normally would? These could be possible in the long run with the help of BMI devices. This sounds fantastic, but then you consider the price. According to Elon Musk, the price would start high, then reduce until it's only a few $1,000s. But even at the low price, only the rich would be able to afford one. This means that the rich would potentially get smarter and stronger than the poor and the average earners. This might sound ridiculous to you or perhaps a great plot for sci-fi stories, but there is the danger that the Neuralink chips could be hacked, giving the hacker access to our brains. The primary benefit of Neuralink's technology is the capacity to control objects with your mind. But this may be dangerous because hackers can use it to convince people to transfer funds or perhaps make them vote for the hacker's preferred candidate in an election. According to Musk, there would also be a Neuralink app. What would happen if a person downloaded a copycat app? While it could give hope to the blind or paralyzed, Neuralink's BMI implant may be dangerous if the researchers and users are not careful. How eager are you to get a cool new N1 chip attached to your brain? What would you do with your new BMI superpowers?
I mean, so could you be more embarrassed if you see something like that, listening to, You're listening to all I'm sure you heard all the stuff in it and you're like, that sounds horrible. That sounds scary. That doesn't sound safe. It sounds like possibly the mark, blah, blah, blah. You can go on and on and on. While the guy's narrating, he's talking about how great it is. This is what they've done with humans and technology. They're in love with it. Literally. People are more obsessed with their technology and more in love with their technology than they are with fellow humans. Now, you might say, that sounds crazy. They're not doing this. Well, think about how people react when their phone gets dropped in the toilet or their power is out and they can't go on their internet or whatever. They have spasms. Now, people like me and you don't, but the majority of people do. You ever seen somebody who loses a teenager who doesn't have their phone or loses their phone and has to run to Verizon? I've seen it before. I've seen family members. I'm like, wow, this is sick and it's sad. And this is the world that we're living in. Because they care more. They don't realize that they love their technology more than their sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend. But in reality, they're spending more time with their technology. They're obsessed with it. That's what they've desensitized people to and gotten people obsessed with subliminally and inadvertently. People don't realize it. And if you ask them, they'd be like, it's not true. I don't love my phone more than my boyfriend. Like, how many hours a day are you on your phone? I guarantee it's more than with your boyfriend because you're at work on your phone, you're in bed on your phone, you're talking to him on the phone instead of in person, right? I mean, seriously, and it goes both ways, obviously, boyfriend and girlfriend, both of them. And you might say, my mother. Well, how often do you call your mom if you don't live with your parents anymore? Or even if you do, how often do you talk to your mom every day? So I guarantee you're spending 15 times more time on your phone. And that's a love of phone, a love of technology. And this will be something, and this is how they continue to do it. This will be worked into people's lives. It'll be normalized. People will be desensitized to it all, and they'll be willing to accept it. And then you have suckers out there like the video clip I showed you, where they're just, I can't wait. I mean, excuse my French, but the guy, it sounds like he had an erection over it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Oh, yeah, it's so cool. Is it cool? Is it? How insane can you be? Wow. I mean, it's one thing to say someone with Parkinson's, that it's going to help them brain function to communicate, or someone with, Lou Gehrig's disease or something horrible that can't speak. And you know what I mean? It's another thing just for a regular person. And again, I don't agree with it in any sense for anyone because, I don't. But you could pitch me that idea, but you can't pitch me a regular person. Oh, wow, I could have my lights go on and off with my brain just reading my thoughts. And I can't think further than this thought to actually think what the government's really trying to do. So please, let me have one in my head. And then I'm going to say, turn on my TV in my head and it's going to go on. Right? Then I'm going to have all these weird thoughts. And where are they going to go? What is it going to cause to happen around me? I don't think that far, so I don't know. I'm just going to hope that it turns the TV on. Huh? That's what we're living amongst, ladies and gentlemen. The dumbest time period. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.